We got a yoga teacher turned murderer turned let me just go to Costa Rica really quick, just get plastic surgery. Gets caught after a 43-day manhunt, and then weeks before her trial, tries to escape out of prison again. We're going to be talking about Kaitlin Armstrong. Mainly, we're going to talk about the great lengths this woman went through just so she wouldn't get caught, just so she can elude the authorities, just so she doesn't get punished for what she did. On May 11 of 2022, Anna Moriah Wilson, she went by Mo for short, she was found murdered at her friend's apartment during her visit to Austin, Texas. She didn't know Kaitlin Armstrong. Kaitlin Armstrong didn't know her either. In fact, the two have never met face to face. And you're probably like me thinking, what the hell is a yoga teacher doing murdering people? You guys ever taken like a yoga class before? I made Dennis and the yoga instructors are usually pretty chill people, you know? They teach you the practice of yoga, meditation, breathing techniques, and things like that. It's actually good ways to deal with their stress, especially if there's something that's in your mind. On that May 11th day, it actually started off pretty normally. You know, Mo had just arrived to Austin, Texas the day before. She had her really good friend, Kaitlin Cash, come and pick her up at the airport, and that's where she was staying, at Cash's apartment. Mo was making plans with her friend, his name is Colin Strickland, and she goes out for a bike ride. Meanwhile, she's texting her friend. They're making plans together, and he picks her up. You know, they do a little wholesome activity where they go swimming together. It was apparently really hot that day in Austin, Texas. Like, I think maybe about like 100 degrees. They go swimming for a little bit, and then there's like a burger bar that's right next door that they just walk to. And then afterwards, he just drops her off. However, when Cash arrives at her apartment, she noticed there's something amiss about it, because when she goes up to the staircase, she realizes that the door was unlocked. And as she goes in, she noticed that her friend Mo was laying on the bathroom floor. As she rushes over there, all she can see is that there's blood all over Mo. She calls 911. They tell her to do chest compressions, and she's trying to save her friend's life, but no matter what she does, her friend is being completely unresponsive. At some point, authorities, medical, they do arrive, and they pronounce Mo deceased at the scene, unfortunately. But the weird thing was, Mo's bike was stolen. And it wasn't just stolen. The bike was found a couple feet away from the house. It was hidden in a very thick bamboo bushy area where it seems like it was supposed to be concealed, but they were able to find it. And the weird thing is that the bike would have cost probably around like 10 to 13 grand. Why would someone steal the bike only to leave it in the bush? Because, Mo wouldn't do that. She wouldn't treat her bike that she loved like this. It almost looked like someone was trying to stage something. I say someone, but y'all know who I'm talking about. Oh God, I still have rib pain from getting sick. Guys, if you guys enjoyed this type of content, please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe as well, so you can see more stuff like this. And I also do live streams on YouTube and Twitch as well, covering true crime cases and court cases and stuff like that. So back to the video. But seriously though, did anyone else get COVID and then still suffer weeks later? I swear to God, I coughed so hard that I pulled my muscle. I pulled my muscle and it hurt so much still. Mo was just shy of turning 26. She would have turned 26 roughly about a week afterwards. And let's talk about Mo actually, because this was a woman who was insanely talented, highly accomplished. She was born and raised in Vermont to Eric and Karen Wilson, her parents, and she does have a brother named Matthew as well. She went to college and she was a very accomplished alpine skier. And after she graduated, she told her mom that she wanted to be a professional cyclist. Specifically, she wanted to do gravel racing, and she was an up-and-coming star. She was winning races left and right, and she was cycling amongst other pro cyclists as well. This was crazy because she was only training for roughly, I think, like 3 years before she was becoming well known in the cyclist community. This is a woman who graduated college with an engineering degree. She at some point did quit her job because she wanted to focus on training and pursue her dreams. But what was Mo's connection with Kaitlin Armstrong? Was Kaitlin Armstrong a pro cyclist? No, she wasn't. Were they friends? Nope. Did they ever meet? Nope, not at all. But what it turns out was that Mo was friends with Kaitlin's boyfriend, Colin Strickland. Remember Colin Strickland, the guy that she met up with when they went to the pool together and they had burgers together and he dropped her off? Yeah, that Colin. When I watch true crime videos, I like knowing people's age just so I can kind of assess their maturity levels. And both Kaitlin Armstrong and Colin Strickland, they were about 10 years older than Mo Wilson. They were in their mid-30s. Mo was like still in her mid-20s at the time. I just want to bring up the yoga thing again because Kaitlin Armstrong, back in 2018, before she was dating Colin Strickland, she went to a 4-week yoga retreat at Bali. And, she may have learned the movesets, but did she learn anything spiritually? I highly doubt it. At the beginning of 2019, Colin and Kaitlin, they started dating. They met on a dating app. And it seems like at that time, the two weren't really exclusive. Now, Colin, he actually wanted to break things right before the pandemic happened because he felt like him and Kaitlin, they didn't really have too much in common. Colin Strickland was a pro cycler. Kaitlin Armstrong pursued yoga. She was also doing real estate as well. And just something about those two worlds probably just didn't combine. Maybe their personalities weren't really meshing well. When the pandemic started, started, the two of them began exclusively dating. Colin, he's known as a guy who has a lot of friends. You know, he's very friendly, especially with female friends. And he was texting this woman and he wanted to let Kaitlin know, like, hey, you know, I have this friend that I've been texting, but out of nowhere, Kaitlin sends a picture of the same exact woman that Colin was talking to, except the woman was just wearing jeans and a bra. Colin doesn't know how Kaitlin got this. He never sent it to her. And we actually don't know if it was sent, you know, maybe during their relationship with Colin Armstrong. Was it before? Or was this a picture that she sent and Colin didn't want it? Or maybe there was something going on, but we don't know that. Colin said after this incident, he was a little hesitant about telling Kaitlin anything about his actions moving forward, which I do not recommend, okay? If you're early on in this relationship and you feel like you gotta hide things from your partner, either fix it or move on to someone else. Don't be doing this thing where you're hiding things from each other. It's just so shady, and the distrust just gets worse and worse and worse, and it just festers, okay? It's very insidious. Now, these two, they do end up breaking up for 5 weeks at the end of 2020. They get back together again. 2022 rolls by, and it seems like the relationship between these two are growing pretty strong. They become business partners. At this point, though, Colin Armstrong, she's got control of all of Colin's stuff. She has control of social media, his passwords, his financials. And I want to reiterate, Colin Strickland, he is a pro cyclist. He's got a Colin Armstrong, probably doing like the sponsorships and stuff like that, the emails, the admin stuff, all the boring stuff. And the two of them, they actually have a business together where they refurbish old trailers, make them look really nice and rentable. Colin Armstrong, don't forget, she's also a yoga instructor who also does a little bit of real estate on the side. 2021 was also the time that Kaitlin Armstrong ended up moving in with Colin, because this was during the Great Texas Freeze where pipes were freezing and people's homes were being destroyed. And Kaitlin Armstrong was one of those people whose homes was, you know, destroyed. And while she had repairs made, she asked Colin if she can stay with him for a little bit. And, you know, he usually doesn't really like having a relationship where the person's living with him. But, you know, he felt bad because she didn't have a place to stay. It's kind of the situation where she kind of moved in and just never really moved out. And how are these two connected to Mo Wilson in any way? Well, that same year where Kaitlin Armstrong and Colin, they became business partners, in September 2021, Colin actually meets Mo Wilson at a 3-day gravel race. He saw her as someone with immense talent. He wanted to connect with her, talk to her about helping her get sponsorship and things like that. And Mo was someone who was really receptive of other people's tips and opinions because she herself wanted to be successful. So she wanted to learn from the best. So they reconnected again a month later in October. At this point, Colin and Kaitlin Armstrong, they both drive down to Arkansas for a big sugar gravel race. This was a race that Mo and Colin, they actually competed together. And it's crazy that she freaking won, even though he was a pro cycler and she was competing against other pro cyclers as well. This just goes to show how incredibly skillful, talented she was as an athlete. Now, the next day, Colin, you know, he decides to go biking with his friends as well. Mo was there, and he doesn't invite Kaitlin Armstrong, even though he got her into cycling, and he said that, you know, she picked it up pretty quickly, but her skill level, she just wasn't there yet. So he didn't want Kaitlin Armstrong to come around and essentially kind of drag him down. Now, as a girlfriend, would you be pissed about that? I mean, I could see some people might be like a little bit iffed about that. It depends on the situation. But at the same time, you know, maybe he's racing with all his friends and you just want him to do his own thing. But I don't know. Kaitlin Armstrong, though, she was pissed about this. She was not happy that she wasn't invited. She felt like she was being left out, and she was like, well, why would my boyfriend leave me out? Like, why couldn't I just go with them? This was so bad that on the ride back from Arkansas to Austin, Texas, they were arguing in the car and they essentially broke up. A couple days after this, you have these two people that are freshly single. They just broken up with each other, and Mo, she's actually in Austin, Texas as well. She texts Colin telling him that she's also broken up with her boyfriend as well. And the two of them, you know, because I feel like it's easier to get over the other person by getting into a new relationship. And so that's what Mo and Colin did. They essentially were both newly single. They got into a relationship together. They both have the same hobby of bicycling. And Colin does the thing where he tells Kaitlin about it. He doesn't remember if he called her or if he texted her, but he gives her heads up like, hey, like, you know, I'm seeing Mo now. Well, this did not go well with Kaitlin whatsoever. Oh my Lord. So Kaitlin, she texts Colin saying, I know you better than to show up at the Meteor with that girl. The Meteor was a very popular cyclist cafe, and oddly enough, the Meteor sponsored both Mo and Colin. Remember that conversation that Colin had with Mo back in, you know, a month before? So I wonder if Colin was able to get Mo the same sponsorship as he had with the Meteor. But I mean, it's like, how could he not attend this event that sponsored these two cyclists? So apparently he didn't attend the event because out of respect for Kaitlin, and she somehow got Mo's phone number, calls up Mo and tells her that she's the one who's with Colin Strickland and to stay away. At this point, Colin's like, what the fuck is going on? He texts Kaitlin, was like, hey, did you call Mo? What the fuck? Can we talk? And then she does the thing where she says, sorry, too busy to answer. I think it's one of those like auto response that you can click on the iPhone. You know, when someone's calling you or texting you, you can just hit one of the auto responses. I think that's what she did. And to me, that just sounds really fucking petty. Here's what I'm thinking. Maybe it was one of those breakups where you're just saying you're broken up, but you're really not broken up. But Colin did say they were straight up broken up. He tried to get Kaitlin to move out of the house. She refused. And you know, in addition to that, Kaitlin, she was also going on dates, but later on we found out that, well, the only reason why Kaitlin was going on dates with other guys is because she was trying to make Colin jealous. Oh my God, the games we were playing. She's in her 30s. This reminds me of me back in my like teens and 20s. Listen, if you gotta stoop down to like some game, some immaturity level, you might want to consider not being with them. And you gotta remember during this time, their stuff is like so intertwined because they got a business together. Kaitlin also handles his social media stuff, his finances, got to access his passwords. Like they're just so intertwined. And that if you're ever going to break up, you better hope both parties are going to be really mature. But it doesn't seem so. It doesn't seem like Kaitlin's going to take the mature route. Now, roughly around the same time frame, Kaitlin apparently was calling Mo several times to the point where Mo had to block her. And the wild thing was, Mo told a friend that 2 months after this, Kaitlin follows Mo on Instagram. Like, Kaitlin, what are you doing? Oh my goodness. And then also, I want to go back to Kaitlin calling Mo to stay away from her boyfriend. It's like, one, you're broken up. Two, the issue is really you and Colin. Do not involve the other woman into this. She has nothing to do with this. You got to talk to Colin directly, but I don't know, Kaitlin. And this is where you would probably be thinking that we're going to fast forward to May 11th, where Mo was murdered because Mo and Colin lived happily ever after. And months later, Kaitlin still couldn't get over Colin. But no, actually, Colin and Kaitlin, they get back together. They rekindle their relationship, act like everything's fine. His fling with Mo only lasted about a week. And so the two get back together. And that same year in December, Kaitlin and Colin, they decide to purchase guns for each one of them. She was getting a little bit more paranoid with the area that she was living in Austin, Texas. Maybe downtown was nearby. There was like road rage incidents that were happening. I don't know if it was with Kaitlin Armstrong, although I wouldn't be surprised given what we know about her. She was also worried about her biking solo. So she just wanted something to protect herself from. Next month in January. So again, Kaitlin and Colin, they're still together. They go to a biking event and Mo was actually there as well. At one of the events, though, Colin and Kaitlin were there, and Colin did see Mo, but they didn't talk to each other, because Kaitlin, she's nearby watching. But later that week, there was another event, and Kaitlin wasn't there. And so Colin, he decides to take this chance and talk to Mo. Colin has maintained that ever since their 1 week fling, their relationship actually turned platonic to professional, because he would, again, still give her advice, and they would talk about biking and stuff like that. And during the car ride home after this week-long event in Arkansas, they drive back to Austin, Texas. And again, in the car ride, an argument ensues. Kaitlin brings up Mo, and Colin says that, she's just being jealous. But now, around this time, Mo and Colin, they're still texting each other, but at some point they realized, Kaitlin might have went on Colin's phone and blocked Mo's number. Colin unblocks Mo, texts her, and says, hey, just listening to my phone, checking to see if this message goes through. Colin sends a picture of flatbed truck image, and Mo responds, haha, yes. At this point, they're trying to text back to each other, trying to figure out, okay, I guess we're not blocked now. Now we can talk to each other. But the odd thing is, during this time frame, Mo does text Colin, and it kind of seems like Mo doesn't really know where her relationship with Colin is at. Maybe Colin's not really discussing it with her. I mean, he did mention that after their 1 week fling, they each went back to doing their own thing. Because, again, Mo did not live in Austin, Texas. And so they never really had the conversation about where the relationship was going, if it was going to be serious or not. And maybe Colin didn't really tell Mo that he got back with Kaitlin. Because in January, Mo texts Colin and says, hey, so I would like to talk to you at some point. I'd originally texted you on Friday, but appears my texts are going through again. The weekend was strange for me, and I just wanted to know what's going on. If you just want to be friends, seems to be the case, then that's cool. But I'd like to talk about it because honestly, my mind's been going in circles and I don't know what to think. And you know what? This just sounds so mature of Mo. She's just like, hey, I just want to know what's going on. And if you don't want to be together, that's fine too. But I just want to get some clarity on this. So maybe the communication issues is really with Colin. Now, when Colin texts back, I feel like Colin doesn't really give an answer, but Colin says, hey, Mo, I feel shitty for putting you in a position where you don't feel comfortable. Kaitlin came along the go to a meeting about the Sprinter/Spartan Hotel project. In hindsight, this wasn't a good idea. I don't really understand what he's saying there. I feel like he's not really addressing the issue. He's saying that he feels uncomfortable that he's putting her in this position. And then he's saying, oh, well, Kaitlin came along as if it's all Caitlin's fault or something. And then also he said in hindsight, this was not a good idea. What was not a good idea? Him bringing Kaitlin which is his girlfriend, to an event where Mo would be there. Like, this feels like early 20s to me. Like, I don't know what is going on with Colin. Maybe he's just not a very straightforward person. Maybe he likes to beat around the bush. That is irritating to me. Now we're around March 2022. And again, Mo and Colin, they're going to see each other at cycling events. And there's this one picture that Colin posted. It's like a video on Instagram. And it's essentially him and a bunch of bikers in the background. And Mo just happens to be one of the bikers in the background. And Kaitlin texts him and says, "Send my love to Mo." Now, Colin did say that he thought this was extremely passive aggressive, and he texts her and says, "Can you please stop?" And here's the part where I'm just like, Colin, why? Colin decides to take Mo's name and then change the contact name under a different alias. That way, Kaitlin won't find out that he's been texting Mo. But here's the thing. If Caitlin's got access to your stuff, she can just have the phone number written down. When you type in someone's phone number in your contacts, it'll show you what their new contact name is. So again, Colin maybe didn't know, it wasn't very tech savvy, but I'm pretty sure that Kaitlin probably found out shortly after. The month after that, Colin, he decides to plan this solo trip where he's going to travel around California, do his cycling stuff, and Kaitlin was gonna come along. But during this time, he was messaging Mo, and they did meet up at some point, and they rode their bikes together. He didn't tell Kaitlin about this whatsoever. When he ended up meeting with Kaitlin after his month-long biking thing, he decided to delete all communications between him and Mo just in case if Colin Armstrong were to find out. Here's an example of one of the text threads. So Mo texted, "You make it to Santa Rosa?" Colin responds, "Very close. Did you end up in a swanky hotel? I would be very jealous as I need a shower." And then Mo just continues in the text talking about cycling rules and strategies. So again, it seems like the two are just being really platonic and they really just are friends. Now to Colin Armstrong, she found out that Colin was going such great lengths to hide about Mo, to lie about Mo. I can see why she would think that there was an affair going on because Colin was just so duplicitous about his relationship with Mo. We're now in the month of May 2022 when the murder happened, and Colin would say that things between him and Colin Armstrong were pretty calm, things were stable, and that he thought Kaitlin was at peace with the things between him and Mo. But here's the thing. He was hiding everything that was going on between him and Mo, the text messages, changing her alias, secretly meeting up with her. And, I honestly think Kaitlin probably knew what was going behind the scenes because she's got access to his technology stuff. She could probably see his iMessages, maybe access his other apps as well. And I just think that things are just probably brewing in Caitlin's mind at that point. I also want to make a mention that a couple days before the murder had happened, Colin told Kaitlin that he didn't want her to show up at the bike races anymore because he just thought that she required too much attention. Kind of sounds like a dick to me. I don't know what that means by too much attention. Maybe he just wanted to focus on racing and not have to worry about her. But I mean, come on, like she's your girlfriend. She wants to be there to support you. And you're just like, no, don't come to my races. Like you're just too much attention. Like, hi. After the murder, the investigators talked to Cash and they were able to quickly find out that the last person that probably saw Mo was Colin Strickland. Not only that, they were able to get their hands on surveillance footage that showed a black Jeep lurking around the neighborhood. And so the next day they go to investigate and they talk to Colin Strickland to let him know that she passed away. And he was so shocked that he put his hand over his mouth in disbelief. But investigators, they looked into that garage and they noticed there was a black Jeep parked in there. That black Jeep had the same similarities as the one that was on the surveillance footage lurking around Cash's apartment. It had a roof rack, a bike rack, there was like a silver trim, and they quickly were able to find out that the driver of that car was Kaitlin Armstrong. She was actually inside the house while this happened, and Colin goes inside to tell her that like, hey, something happened to Mo. I was actually with her last night. And surprisingly enough, Kaitlin wasn't mad. Colin probably thought that Caitlin's mind was digesting the fact that Mo was murdered, and that's why she wasn't mad. At some point, though, they do bring Kaitlin Armstrong into the police department as well to interview her. Kaitlin Armstrong maintained quietness. She was very stoic, and investigators would be like, hey, your boyfriend was seeing Mo. She looked agitated. We found your car that was like driving around, and she didn't really deny it. She didn't really say anything. She just kept asking to leave and to see a lawyer. At some point, they do let her go. After they both interview, Colin goes back to his dad's house to process things, and he ends up going back home and sees that Caitlin's there. And he asks Kaitlin, where were you? Kaitlin says that she went to yoga and a healer, which to me is so creepy because she went to a healer. Does that mean that she saw her shooting Mo therapeutic to her? That would not surprise me. That is just wild, okay? Now the next day, 2 days after the murder, Kaitlin goes to CarMax and she sells her black Jeep at CarMax for $12,000. She takes that cash, she flies all the way to New York, and then she flies to Costa Rica. But here's the thing. She doesn't fly to Costa Rica under Kaitlin Armstrong. No. she had her sister's passport. We don't know to this very day if her sister gave her the passport and knew it, or if Kaitlin stole the passport from her sister. There's a 43-day manhunt where they could not find her. Now, around this time, Colin loses a lot of sponsors. I wasn't sure, maybe the sponsors didn't like his association with Colin Armstrong. It wasn't like he was the one who murdered Mo, but I guess it was association with all of them. During this time, Mo's family did come out to say that Mo, she was not in a relationship with anyone during this time. This is also backed by Mo's brother, Mo's friend as well, saying that she wasn't seeing anyone. And you know what? I do believe this. Even though I know Colin was playing extremely duplicitous to Kaitlin about his relationship with Mo, I think honestly it was just a friendship at that point. Because if there was anything, they would have recovered information on Mo's cell phone. Because remember, Mo wasn't seeing anyone this time. So any text message between her and Colin, it's not like she's going to be deleting it. And during the trial, the defense would have access to Mo's phone as well. And if they wanted to make her look bad, they could paint her as, oh, here's the homewrecker over here. Nothing really came out from the text messages between Mo and Colin when they were recovered from Mo's phone. Because if there's really something going on between Mo and Colin, you would expect to see text messages between them saying like, oh, I miss you, I love you, like things that are more flirty. From the messages, it seems like it really was platonic. They talked about biking a lot. They talked about sponsorship, talked about hanging out, and it could just be just hanging out platonically. I just feel like I would just see more in text messages. So Kaitlin Armstrong, she escapes to Costa Rica, but the thing was, when she was at the airport in New York, they were able to get a footage of her at the airport with a freaking yoga mat on, okay? So obviously when she goes to Costa Rica, she's gonna do something yoga related. After all, that was her hobby and it was, her profession as well. How they found her was they looked around at different yoga retreats to see, I wonder where Kaitlin Armstrong would be at. There has to be one around here somewhere. And they did end up finding her. The marshals found her in Santa Teresa, a place that's very well known with a lot of tourists. And essentially the marshal was, doing some investigation and he was able to pinpoint her to this one location and he actually saw her. But at first he didn't recognize it was her because it was like, oh man, she looks different. Like her hair was darker, it was shorter, her nose looked really different. But you know what? I'm gonna go up there and try to talk to her. So he goes up there to try to talk to her in Spanish, ask for directions, and Kaitlin Armstrong didn't understand. And then it's when he looked into her eyes that he realized that was Kaitlin Armstrong. But why did she look so different? Aside from cutting her hair and making it darker, dude, she went to get plastic surgery. They found a $6,000 receipt for plastic surgery to get her nose done. And honestly, when you look at the pictures, she just looks way, 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 way worse in my opinion. Like she looked fine before, but now with the plastic surgery, I know she's not doing for cosmetic reasons. She's just doing it because she wants to hide from the authorities. But oh my God, did she ruin her face for this? They said she looked different. She had a band-aid across her nose. I do want to play a footage really quick of the marshals of his interview of how he found Kaitlin Armstrong.
We believe strongly, based upon our investigation, that she was trying to really enhance her yoga instruction with some type of yoga at a retreat to where she was going to specialize in some type of surf yoga. So she was really educating herself.
So Kaitlin Armstrong, she arrives at the airport. She's trying to hide from news reporters and stuff like that. But they were able to finally ship her back to Austin, Texas, where she's going to await trial. Before we get to the trial, Kaitlin was apparently offered a plea deal. Now, instead of her having to face maximum 99 years because they weren't going for the death penalty, they were like, you know what, Kaitlin, you'll probably get out in like 20 to 30 years. But no, she denied that. She's like, no, I'm not taking the plea deal. You know what she does after that? And this must have made her lawyers go batshit crazy. She tries to escape the prison. I already made a video covering about this, about her prison escape. And I read the report. If you guys haven't seen it, go watch the video because the report is really hilarious. But essentially, just to recap it, she was training pretty hard at the gym. It seems like she was trying to get her agility up. She was trying to get stronger. And they thought she was trying to train so that one day when she does attempt her escape, she'd be faster. She'd be able to scale walls because that's what she tried to do. She made an appointment saying that she got an injury, like it was a shoulder injury of some sort from being kicked by an inmate. And they had a doctor's note where it was like, hey, make sure Kaitlin Armstrong doesn't have leg restraints. I don't know what leg restraints have to do with the shoulder injury, but whatever. Anyway, so Kaitlin Armstrong is transported to the medical facility. And when she's done with her appointment, there was a point in time where they weren't paying attention and she just dips out on foot, running away from the police officer. And the police officer is significantly way shorter than Kaitlin Armstrong. I think police officer was like 5'3". Kaitlin Armstrong, I think she's like 5'6", 5'7". So she's got legs, man. She's like running, she's striding. And you see her try to scale up that wall and she does not make it. doesn't make it. I guess her efforts of working at the gym didn't really do much. So she makes a U-turn and continues running. And at some point, they were finally able to catch her about half a mile away. But this is like a 10-minute chase. But the video is just so crazy to me. Just seeing her running around in the yard. Her lawyers must have been like, why, Kaitlin? You're making everything so bad for yourself. And so they obviously didn't want this to be able to be used in trial. But guess what? State prosecutors, they were able to bring this up and tell the jury about this prison escape. In addition to the Costa Rica thing as well. Now, we are at the trial right now, and it happened recently. The sentencing was actually roughly about 2 weeks ago. We didn't get to see the full live stream of the trial because the judge only allowed the opening, closing, and the verdict. When we watched the opening, though, even the audio quality was not good. It was just so crazy to see how vicious the lawyers were already going at it, mainly because the state prosecutor had issues with the defense opening statements.
Judge, these are opening remarks. This is what we expect the evidence to show. This is proper argument. Thank you. Before that objection was overruled, we were talking about, Judge, this is the burden of proof. If the state is apprehensive about the jury hearing about...
I'm apprehensive about him not giving a roadmap and giving an argument at open statement. That's what I'm apprehensive about.
And I want you to approach that task.
Judge, once again, he's talking about how the jury weighs evidence. He's not talking about the foundation of what he's laying, what he expects to prove.
Judge, this is appropriate argument. Your Honor. A woman who is trapped in a nightmare of circumstantial evidence.
That's not opening statement.
Judge, I'm discussing the evidence. And that
You're
it is
discussing her
circumstantial.
state of mind. That's not evidence.
And you will have the conclusion that the state has fallen short of its burden.
Judge, once again, every time you sustain, he gets up and says the same thing. He's making arguments about how they weigh the evidence at the end of the trial.
Judge,
that's not opening statement.
It is the burden of proof, Your Honor, that the jury has in this case. If the state is apprehensive about the burden of proof that they've accepted...
Okay. There's a time and place to talk about the burden of proof, and it's not opening statement.
Let me stop both. If there are no further statements about what the evidence is going to show.
There's so many objections. The defense was getting frustrated. The judge kept sustaining. And if you guys didn't get to watch it, I think I will upload it on the YouTube channel at some point. I just gotta... The audio's a little bit wonky, so I was a little bit hesitant about it. But anyways, talking about the trial. So we have the evidence of Kaitlin Armstrong's DNA being found on Mo's bike handle, Mo's seat of the bike. And remember, they were not friends. They never met each other. So it's like, what is Kaitlin Armstrong's DNA doing on Mo's bike? That's one. And remember, Mo's bike was abandoned in a bamboo bush somewhere. I think it's possible that Kaitlin Armstrong may have taken the bike to make it staged like it was stolen and it was a robbery. So she decides to take the bike ride, but then realizes, oh, wait, I need to get back in my car. What am I going to do with this bike? I'm not going to bring the bike with me. Or one of my viewers told me this, so I'm going to take their idea. But they mentioned that they believe Kaitlin took the bike because she knew that this was one of Mo's prized possession. You know, that's how essentially Colin Strickland and Mo met, through cycling. And so maybe she took the bike out of spite and decided to take it and just throw it in the middle of nowhere. Not only that, but the bullet casings that were found around Mo's body, well, they were able to get Colin and Caitlin's gun. And the casing, well, it seems to match as if it was coming from Caitlin's gun. They were able to get a hold of her phone and her car location as well. All the defense kept saying, like, well, how do you know it was Kaitlin driving the Jeep? How did you know Kaitlin had her phone on her? You know, it's just stuff like that. Additionally, I want to bring up the stalking that Kaitlin did. Kaitlin apparently would stalk Mo on her Instagram a couple times before the murder happened. This was like the same day and like days leading up to it. And then not only that, there's this app called Strava where if you're biking, if you're hiking, if you're cycling, you can essentially show the routes that you would take and you can share it to other people. And so Mo did this because she wanted people to see that, like, oh, this is what I did today. I was cycling. And so Kaitlin Armstrong would periodically check on Mo's Strava app to see where she was. And at some point she must have noticed, oh, wait a second. Mo's in Austin, Texas. I wonder if Mo and Colin are going to meet up. During the trial, we have two friends of Kaitlin's that go up there and testify. Let's start with Nicole Merz. She got really close with Kaitlin back in 2020, and she said that, you know, Colin and Kaitlin, they would never call each other boyfriend and girlfriend, and their relationship was on again, off again. And she would say that Colin will call Kaitlin his lady friend, and Kaitlin would say that a relationship was casual, but not casual. So Nicole was with Kaitlin during that October 2021 breakup when Colin was seeing Mo at this time. This was the time that Nicole recalls seeing Kaitlin very angry. Apparently, Mo had just walked into the meteor and Kaitlin saw Mo and told Nicole that, oh, that's Mo right there. And apparently she was really quiet. She was angry. Her quotes was, she was pretty angry, visibly angry. I've never seen her like that before, which is why I remembered it. Now, Nicole asked Kaitlin, what would she do if Colin was dating someone else? Kaitlin responds that she would kill her. Doesn't seem like a very Yogi-like response, but now we got another friend, Jacqueline Chastain. And she said that initially when Colin first met Kaitlin, he was head over heels with her. But in 2021, Colin wasn't really sure where his relationship stood with Kaitlin. Colin wouldn't call Kaitlin his girlfriend. Jacqueline recalls a time where she was with Kaitlin, and Kaitlin apparently said that she found out that Colin had cheated on her with Mo, and that Kaitlin was shaken up. She was trembling, she couldn't help herself. She says that Mo kept texting Colin, and Colin was trying to keep Mo away, but for some reason, Mo just wouldn't leave him alone. Colin just seems to be the catalyst between all this because he's being really indirect with Mo, and it seems like at the same time, he's being untruthful towards Kaitlin. Jacqueline remembers during her conversation with Kaitlin, she remembered Kaitlin mentioning the word kill and gun at the same time, essentially saying that she wanted to kill Mo and that she had a gun or had recently bought a gun or something. And I believe it's Jacqueline who actually called investigators days after Mo was murdered, called anonymously to report about Kaitlin Armstrong. She wanted to make sure that Kaitlin Armstrong wasn't come after her next. But oh my God, we need more people like Jacqueline. We need more people to speak up when things are going down, and not just to protect people just for the sake of their loyalty to friendships, okay? We need more Jacquelines out there. Thank you, Jacqueline, for coming on and speaking against your friend. Hi, it's a new day. I don't know how people film this in one take or one sitting, or maybe they do it over several days, but just wear the same outfit so y'all can't tell. I'm going to take y'all back to the day of the murder, but this time we're going to weave Kaitlin's whereabouts into it and also what Kaitlin was doing that day. Now, we all know Mo was visiting from Austin, Texas. She was staying at her friend Cash's place, and she hit up Colin Strickland because Colin also lives in Texas and she just wanted to hang out. The two made plans to go biking together, and Colin actually never really responds until the next day. Mo thought that Kaitlin Armstrong got a hold of his phone again and probably blocked her, but because Colin was able to respond, that wasn't it. The day progresses, they start making plans together, and Mo, since she didn't go biking with Colin earlier, she just went out biking on her own. But during this time when Mo was biking, she was doing her thing where she uploaded her trail onto the Strava app. But that day, the person that was looking at her Strava app was Kaitlin Armstrong. Now, I don't know if this was at the point where Kaitlin Armstrong realized that, oh shit, Mo's in Austin, Texas. I got to make sure I keep an eye on Colin. I'm sure at this point, Kaitlin internally, she's freaking out, but she doesn't show it. She continues texting Colin as if everything's fine. They're talking about a real estate deal, going back and forth. But at some point, Colin, he stops responding, and he stops responding because he's already picked up Mo. They go to the pool to hang out for a little bit, do a little bit swim, and they go to the burger bar just to have a nice little meal. And because Colin is not responding to the text messages from Kaitlin Armstrong or her phone calls, at some point, Kaitlin Armstrong decides to take her Jeep out and to go driving around town, probably to see where Colin is. And I want to note that I didn't find anything from the trial that showed there was something romantic going on with Colin and Mo at the time. There were surveillance footage of them at the burger bar together, and it seems like the two of them were just really two friends just hanging out. Colin was on his phone showing things to Mo, like probably talking about sponsorships, maybe just catching up with each other, talking about cycling stuff. They both loved it. But Kaitlin during this time, she was probably fuming. And you know what? She probably had her gun with her, thinking she was going to actually do something with it. She could have went to yoga. She could have meditated out. She could have thought about plans of getting out of this relationship. But no, she decides to take extreme measures because she couldn't control herself. She couldn't control her anger. She couldn't control her jealousy. Can we just start getting free therapy, please? Like, please. At 7:30, Kaitlin Armstrong thinks she's being smart, and she puts her phone on airplane mode. Probably thinking that no one's going to be able to track her, but she forgot that the vehicle that she's driving is obviously technologically pretty advanced. It has GPS in it. They were able to get the informatics on that vehicle to figure out where she was driving, even though her phone was on airplane mode. And as she does this, she drives over to Cash's house and circles around. At some point, Mo and Colin, they've been hanging out for 2 hours, and Colin drops Mo off at Cash's apartment. About a minute after he drops her off, he texts Kaitlin, and this is what he writes. Hey, are you out? I went to drop some flowers for Allison at her son's house up north, and my phone died. Heading home unless you have another food suggestion. Can you imagine how angry Kaitlin must have felt when she got this text message, but she knew exactly where Colin was? She probably was really thinking that they were having an affair. If she knew it was platonic, I don't think she would have gone to great lengths. What do you guys think? So Kaitlin, she circles around again for roughly about another hour, and Cash has a very sophisticated key lock system where it shows when a door locks and unlocks. And I think because Mo was unfamiliar with this, she forgot to lock the door, and Kaitlin was actually able to just walk into the apartment like it was nothing. There was no signs of forced entry. As the detective said, the neighbor's surveillance footage was able to capture a woman screaming at 9:15. That last shot, it was presumed that Mo at this time was already laying in the bathroom floor. That's a shot of, I want you dead, I want you gone, I want you to never speak to Colin ever again. That was a shot that was meant for Mo's heart. Mo was probably caught off guard. Like, imagine being Mo, you're in your friend's kitchen, you're scrolling through social media, you're eating some candy, and out of nowhere, this woman busts into the apartment with a gun pointing at you. She probably was in the kitchen and ended up retreating to the bathroom to try to hide and run away, but she was unable to make it out. What's even more eerie about Kaitlin Armstrong's actions was that she went back home to Colin Strickland. That night, Colin was sitting at his table watching a cycling doc while Kaitlin was sitting there as well. He said that she was calm, she was collected, and they both just slept at the house that night. Oof, that is so chilling. See, I wonder if Kaitlin was contemplating that night of whether or not she wants to also take out Colin as well, because Colin's the one that was lying to her. Or do you guys think that Kaitlin purposely targeted only Mo? That way, she feels like this is the best way she can get back at Colin and hurt him the most. During the trial, the state does a really good job at putting the timelines together of all three parties to make it so the jury can really understand that it was Kaitlin Armstrong who did it and no one else. I want to talk about Colin Strickland, though. Colin Strickland strikes me as someone who's pretty immature for someone in their mid-30s and definitely a liar. But y'all got to remember that he wasn't the one that pulled the trigger. We might not like Colin Strickland, but it's all Kaitlin Armstrong. This was her doing. She couldn't control her anger. But we got to talk about Colin Strickland and the trial. He did go up there and testify for about 2 days. His body language was not very open. Seems like he was mostly slumped. He felt really uncomfortable. That's what reporters reported. There were times where they could barely hear him because his answers were actually whispered, and he wouldn't talk at a level where it was clear enough to be able to hear him. And as he was up there testifying, well, guess who's across looking right at him? Apparently, though, he had his face like this and had his hand blocking it. That way he wouldn't be able to see Kaitlin Armstrong. As he went there testifying, it seems to me that he was kind of downplaying the relationship, or maybe he was calling it for what it was. On again, off again relationship. It was tumultuous at times. He really wasn't sure if him and Kaitlin were compatible in the long term. And can you imagine Kaitlin sitting there listening to all this? Now on the stand, he did reinforce that him and Mo, they did have the 1 week long fling, but at some point, their relationship completely was platonic and professional. But you see, we got to revisit the Colin immaturity thing, because there were some footages of Colin doing some unsavory things.
Watch him just totally run into this dude on purpose. Boom, and try to pull his camera out.
That one wasn't too bad. It was just trying to push the camera out, but just wait, there's more. I can't believe no one even warned the guy that, hey, look out, you might trip over there. And then also when he fell over, they kind of just stepped over him like he was nothing. If they were yelling things at him, I could get that. Like, you just want to get away, you don't care. But it was pretty quiet, you know, unless maybe they were yelling before we saw the footage. Possibly. But this is just childish behavior.
He appears to elbow and kick one photographer, and then he goes out of his way to stomp on this guy's foot.
Ouch!
His foot.
Ouch!
Now, I will say the ouch thing seems a little bit forceful, but Colin seems like a dick. I know for him it's a really stressful time. You got your ex-girlfriend who's on there for the murder of your friend, but this is just not how you behave. As the trial is coming towards an end, Kaitlin gets a choice of whether or not she's gonna testify. She doesn't end up testifying, unfortunately, because I would have loved to hear from her side. I know that opens the door for prosecutors to ask her all types of questions that she doesn't want to answer. During closing argument, I do want to mention that her defense team did say that, like, well, Kaitlin, she normally goes out of trips out of the country. She normally goes to Mexico. and she was in fear of her life at that time, probably alluding that she was scared of Colin Strickland because they were probably trying to pin the murder on Colin Strickland. But the question that it doesn't answer, why would Kaitlin use her sister's passport to go to Costa Rica? Why would Kaitlin change her face? I mean, they can argue, oh, she just wanted to have a nose job and this is something she's always wanted to do, but why was she doing it under different aliases? A lot of the defense stuff, I mean, they had a hard time defending this client, and I'm sure they did their best, but a lot of the stuff that they said didn't make sense. It didn't make sense to the juror, obviously, because they were able to deliberate for 3.5 hours and found Kaitlin Armstrong guilty. She was facing a maximum of 99 years in prison. And remember, she was offered a plea deal where she probably would have gotten out in her 50s or 60s. She denied that. And instead, she got 90 years with a possibility of parole in the future. Kaitlin must have had some really strong insecurities about herself, because it's not like Kaitlin wasn't doing anything for herself. She was a yoga instructor. She was doing real estate stuff. But those insecurities just really ate at her. She probably tried to people please Colin by getting into cycling and try to keep up with him, but she really couldn't. Meanwhile, there was this young woman who was highly accomplished. She was winning races left and right, and she was highly admired by her own boyfriend. Deep down inside, this was probably hurting Kaitlin's ego, because here she was sacrificing everything to be with Colin, trying to get into cycling. She was managing his finances, his socials, everything. They were living together, and she probably thought that one day Mo was going to replace her. We are closing the door on Colin, closing the door on Kaitlin, and I want to go back and revisit Mo. There were friends and families that had a lot of really nice things to say about Mo. They said that she loved cooking, she loved Taco Tuesday, she loved going to Italy. She loved maple, I can't pronounce this, maple creamies. I think that's how it's pronounced. It's a famous Vermont soft serve, and it sounds really good. She loved traveling. She loved playing Catan with friends, which is a board game that's pretty hard. One of the event organizers that knew Mo said that she was a role model. She was shy, yet she was compassionate. She was a spiritual, tactical racer, and she was a competitor that genuinely cared about the people that she was competing against. A pro cyclist remembered a night before there was a big race with him and Mo, and he said that while a lot of elite athletes might be resting before a big race like that, Mo was cooking everyone dinner and doing the dishes. That's just who she was. Her brother Matt recalls that Mo's yearbook quote was, "To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest achievement." Her parents recall a time where she was recovering from 2 ACL surgery. Her mom said that she had this great attitude about the injuries. She said, "These things happen for a reason, and this will just make me stronger." Her dad said that Mo worked harder coming back from the surgery than I've ever seen anyone work. She would be in the gym for 6 hours. There were so many people that had a lot of really nice things to say about her, and they commented on how talented she was, how she picked up things really quickly. It's just so sad to see someone who accomplished so much and was on the path to accomplish so much more in their life, to have them die at such a young age, at the age of 25, because of someone else who couldn't control their jealousy, couldn't control their anger, and instead of leaving the relationship that they were clearly unhappy with, they decided to take it out on the other person. In this case, it was Mo.